question for all of you, which is New York State's curriculum. Sam, you got kids in the public school system, don't you?
I have two.
Okay. What do you guys think about the kind of, and I just really know the high school curriculum, but we do global studies the first 2 years, U.S. history in 11th grade, and like a government economics in 12th grade. And I just kind of wanted to know your thoughts on that curriculum. And if you think, just kind of an open-ended question, like, do you think it's adequate in terms of preparing kids, or at least giving them a sense of history and kind of the world around them? Should we have more of a focus on global history, more of a focus on U.S.? I teach the global, and it's challenging to teach 9th and 10th graders kind of world history from the Paleolithic to the present. We do it over 2 years. So I don't know, I'll just kick it to you. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the curriculum. Should we have more of a focus on U.S. history? Should we integrate the U.S. history into a global curriculum? Because what I'm noticing is in my global class, there's a bit of American exceptionalism at work.
Yeah.
We don't really talk about the U.S., despite it kind of looming in the background of everything. I mean, we do, but it's kind of bizarre how they're split in half. So I don't know, I'm curious as to what you think about that, and anybody else in the whole crew there who's got some input or thoughts.
I mean, look, my high school experience was really just about making fart noises in the back of the class. I mean, that was, for the most part of that, but almost exclusively for me. But, and so, but the things I've been most impressed by have been stuff that my kid in elementary school does that is multidisciplinary. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll work on like a project about birds, but it's their way of like learning geography, and their way of learning biology, and their way of learning natural sciences. And it cuts across things. I mean, I would like to see, and my daughter, when she went through junior high, like they raced through history. I mean, I guess I've come to understand history is something different than just like memorizing all these dates. And so I almost would prefer to focus on like 1 or 2 eras and go across, the globe and understand these things, so that you understand the concept of history rather than actually learning certain specifics of history. But
I feel like somebody at the state level is kind of tried to do that. I'm sort of fresh here. I'm coming into this after years working in agriculture, so I'm not like fresh out of college or anything. I'm entering in my 30s, but I think the state has tried to do that. In the past several years for global, they've kind of changed the curriculum around, and it's much less like, memorize all this stuff, and it's more, analyze the point of view, analyze the context of this, piece of writing or this speech or whatever. So they're attempting to do that, but I agree with your assessment of just like ripping through with your daughter's junior high.
I mean, that's, and I don't really have a sense, like, my daughter, like this year's been so screwed. My daughter's getting great grades, but she says to me, like, I'm not learning anything. And it's just, it's really disturbing. But, I at this point, like to have a teenage kid, I'm just, I'm happy that she's safe and, mentally okay, relatively speaking. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot of kids have been really, it's been very difficult for them. And, for her, particularly her, she'd been training for this her whole life. The idea of maintaining social relationships through a phone was like that. She'd been training for this, and it was sort of, in some respects, just because of what her issues are, this was not as difficult for her in some respects as it was for other people. But I mean, for me, if I was to one of the things that I've heard from teachers is that the standardization, the high stakes tests, in many respects took the ability of teachers to like create their own curriculum, or at least shape it in the way that they wanted. And I think that's super unfortunate.
Yes.
And I believe that, like, for me, I would like to see kids in high school learn the concept of history more than the history. Like, here's a book, read it over the summer. It's like it's better in my mind to learn the concept of these things. The most, and I didn't get introduced to any of that until college. The idea of like, read critically, like, find out what their assumptions are. And it's super easy to find out what their assumptions are just based upon what discipline they're writing from. You put a sociologist, a psychologist, a historian, a political scientist, and you have them all write on the same topic. They're starting with different assumptions, just based upon what their discipline is, and that's going to affect the outcome of their book, let's say, and sort of or whatever they write. And to teach that concept to people, when you're high school students. If you can get that concept, like understand that concept, then it's so much more important than the specific details, because then as they grow older and bump into these things, particularly in the world that we have now, right? Like, just we had those guys on from Blowback, like it's 6 episodes and I don't know how many episodes. I think it's 6. And you're going to learn that history. And if you have the frame of mind of how to interpret that, what you're hearing, that's what really matters, particularly in this world where like the access to, I listened to a Yale professor's Civil War class, which I could never do, 30 years ago.
Sure.
And, and because I have a better sense of history now, that hearing those details made a lot more sense. So that's, I don't know.
Well, I feel like a lot of what we're doing here is very antiquated, and it's been kind of updated slightly, but there's a lot of compartmentalization between disciplines, and the multidisciplinary stuff that you saw your child doing, I would love to do here, but it's just like the way that the course is constructed, and we have these Regents exams that, as you say, dictate everything. And, I wonder if they're going to go, we have not had them this year. We obviously didn't have them last year. So I wonder if this is it. This could be like, the close of those things.
That would be cool.
There are people
that would be
cool,
but we'll see.
But I also realize that my question is, pretty meaningless right now in the context of, remote learning. It's a perennial question I kind of had for you guys, partially because your show, I do feel like, is a bit of a social studies classroom in and of itself that, has way more impact than what I can do. So I appreciate the work that you guys do for
I appreciate the work you do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the work you do, but I have to end the show now.
Well,
thanks,
why
man.
don't you take the weekend then?
All right.
Nice talking to you, Sam. Take care. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for the call.